Welcome back to Sea Glass Archaeology, everyone. I am so excited to be taking you back to the beach once again. Before we do that though, I really wanted to say thank you to everybody for all of your love, your kindness, and your positive support on my last video and all my videos as well. You know, it hasn't even been a week since I put that last adventure online, and it's already been viewed over 4,000 times, which is absolutely huge and heartwarming for me. And on top of that, I've made so many great new friends. So if you're one of those new people watching, thank you so much for tuning into that last video. I'm not sure how good today's gonna be though. You can see behind me that there's a whole bunch of sand, and it's covering all of the rocks that bear the sea glass. Don't worry, we're gonna go take a trip over to Tiny Beach. We're also gonna go see maybe if there's some bottles, and hopefully we're still gonna make some great discoveries today. Well, there is some sea glass here, everyone. You can see that there's a very large shard and a little one right over here. There's only one little pile of pebbles for me to go through, and unfortunately I've already gone through it. Although I think I saw over here there was a really, really nice amber brown nugget, and I think I might have stepped on it, and now I don't know where it is. Take a look at this completely unique piece of driftwood, everyone. You can see that it has more curves in it than any road you'll ever see, and it almost looks like a Loch Ness monster or a snake. I'm gonna go and take a look at how heavy this thing is. This is a beachcomber's version of winning the Stanley Cup. I can't believe I just kissed that driftwood, everybody. Who knows if there's any bacteria on it. I was just living in the moment, and that was so much fun. There is another 9-inch nail. It's aluminum, and it's sitting on the beach. I'm really happy that I shared it in the last video because somebody was able to identify this as something that would have been used on gutters and like on eavesdrops on the side of the house. And then hilariously, because I'm at the high tide mark, look right over here, there's a drain plug from some sort of a sink or a bathtub. And this is something that I actually recover very commonly. And I always joke that if I find enough of these and pull them out of the ocean, it's gonna counteract the global sea levels that are rising. Oh my gosh, everybody. So I absolutely just struck gold over here. I was leaving the beach and I was just checking those few little piles that we looked at when we first walked in, and I stumbled across this incredible piece of purple right over here. I cannot believe that this washed up after I've already checked here about 30 minutes ago. I can actually see that it has a little bit of an edge to it. So this actually could have been the bottom of a very, very beautiful, very purple bottle. You can see that it has a huge stress mark on it right over here. It was probably hit by a rock. And as I was saying, you can see over here, it's got a little bit of a curvature to it. It actually has a few more chips on it over here, but I don't mind. This is probably one of the largest pieces of purple that I've ever recovered that I don't think is from an old insulator. Because I do know that there were a lot of insulators that were used out here that actually contain manganese in them, so they are purple. This just goes to show that no matter how slim the chances are, we always have to follow through and explore those curiosities and leave no stone unturned. I would just find it so amazing living next to the ocean that you can actually see the point where the weather changes and the cold front and the hot front meet. So you can see right over here, the clouds overhead draw almost a straight line right through the sky, and then right to the left of it is nothing but sunny days ahead. Here we are, everybody. We made it to Tiny Beach, and it looks like there's a lot of pebbles for us to look through. Now, the majority of my time here I'm going to be spending picking the tiniest of tiny little sea glass, but we're going to turn the camera around before I do any surface scratching, and maybe we're going to find something cool. You can see that there is a lot of smaller and medium-sized glass right here on this beach. And like I said, I need every piece that I find, so I'm really happy to be here. And one thing I know is there's a lot of, ooh, look at this one right over here, everyone. Is that yellow? So now that I have it down over here, it is definitely not yellow. It's actually more of like a citron color. It's still absolutely beautiful. And then you can see that there is a lot of surface glass right over here. So I think we're gonna be in luck. We're gonna make a few great finds. Let's keep this going. But like I said, I need all of these shards right over here. Oh, look at this one over here. It's a sneaky little amber brown. And I'm sure everybody watching at home is probably saying, pick this one up, pick this one up. So I'm so glad that I saw this as well. But sometimes when I'm looking through the viewfinder, trying to make sure if it's focused. Oh my gosh, this one over here. Look over here, everybody. It is a marble. Okay, let's turn this one over and see what it looks like. Oh my gosh, so this is about 25% of a marble. It's a neat little piece over here. I love these milky swirls. And then look right over here as well, everyone. It's a piece of bonfire, and it's a nice little nugget. There's lots of day left, everybody, so hopefully I find the other 75% of this marble somewhere here on the beach, although I highly doubt it. There's some big glass here. It's just not that well aged. Let's keep on moving, everybody. I gotta go check the lowest point of the tide, because if I don't get that part, it's gonna be covered real soon as the tide is rising. Oh my goodness, everybody, take a look. It almost looks like I left the marble here that I found last time we were here, but this is absolutely a different marble. This is so crazy. Oh, look at that right over there. It's got a little streak of orange in it. You can hear those waves behind me are really piling up, and the finds are piling up too. I'm so happy we finally have a little spot that we get to find some great treasures in. Look right over here. There's a Carboniferous era fossil. You can see it right over here. It's a fern leaf, and this is why we have so much coal over here, because of these Carboniferous era forests that existed on Cape Breton Island about 280 to 330 million years ago. And it's just amazing that very similar plants are growing in the same spot that I find these fossils. Oh yeah! Right over here! Right over here, everybody. Take a look at this. Oh, and then look at this right over here. It's a beautiful piece of golden honey amber, and it's a nice orange, tiny little sea marble. This marble over here, you know what it looks like to me? It actually looks like an orange crush marble. While I'm absolutely not an expert when it comes to identifying marbles, I have observed in the past that soda companies, and almost any company really, would associate themselves with marbles, and they had their own unique styles, that they kind of match the color of the drink. So I've seen some 7-Up marbles that look like a kind of a 7-Up bottle, and then I've seen Orange Crush packaged marbles that look like this one right over here. So there's a good chance that this marble right over here is a genuine Orange Crush marble. When I go home, I'm going to take a few photos off of the internet, and I'm going to put them in the video to give everybody a better idea of what I'm talking about here. It's always harder to do my digging when I'm holding the tablet, everybody, but there's been some really great finds that have been on the surface and just beneath. It's hard to put it down, but I'm going to have to do it here, and I'm going to do some digging, although I have a feeling that I'm going to be looking through a lot of video later on tonight of me just picking tinies, because there are so many tinies, and that is what I'm here to do. Oh my gosh, everybody! Oh, it's a beautiful piece of amberina. It is a beautiful piece of amberina sea glass. You know, it's not the biggest piece of sea glass I've ever found. I'd have to say it's only about like 3/8 to about 1/2 inch, and it's not that wide, but it's got some real unique patterns to it. You know, when I see patterns like this, sometimes I think it might be from an old lens covering from a light, but then I look at this a little bit closely, and I think that this piece right over here is actually a piece of tableware, like some sort of ornate vessel that was made out of amberina. So here's a better look at the pattern, everybody. Now, we've noticed and observed in the past that tail lights or headlights, they do have these triangular patterns to them, but typically they would be more indented for refracting the light better. The legend of amberina glass is actually quite magical. I remember reading that they said that there was a glass maker and he was making amber glass, and he dropped a gold ring into the batch, and as you may or may not know, in the older days we would use gold chloride to make red glass. So that's kind of like the origins of the story. The truth is that there's a few different time periods of amberina glass, and there's many different ways of making it. So it is true that some earlier 1880s amberina glass did have gold in it, but the more modern stuff that was made around the mid-century, around 1950, I believe was made using selenium, but the same kind of a process where you control the temperature of the vessel that you're making, and it creates a beautiful hue where it transitions from like a nice light amber orange all the way to a beautiful golden red hue. I believe this one over here is more of a mid-century find, and I'm not 100% sure. I also believe that amberina glass like this, it fluoresces underneath the spectrum of a black light. So it's gonna be exciting. We're gonna go home and we're gonna take this beautiful piece, we're gonna put it underneath the black light, and we're gonna see if this fluoresces as well. You know, there's been a lot of questions in the last video and of late of what I am doing with all of the beautiful sea glass that I picked. You know, this winter I really had plans to share some of my designs and creations in how-to videos. But, you know, the camera that I bought, it actually didn't pan out and I had to return it, which means that everything I do, I'm still doing on my tablet. And it's really not that easy to position the tablet in a place where I can show everybody what I'm doing. But after I'm done picking all of these tinies on the beach, more than I can stand, we're gonna go home and I'm gonna show you what I'm making with all of these little pieces of sea glass. Just one little thing, and I know you're gonna love it. Oh my gosh, everybody, look at this one right over here. It is a beautiful triangle and it's aqua. Okay, I'm not gonna come in because this one's not as special as some of the other pieces that I find, but we can see, oh, wait a second, this one might actually be a little bit special. So this one over here, everybody, I think actually is from an old glass washboard. It has a little bit of a mound right in the middle of it, and that's something that's indicative of glass washboards. And it even has a little bit of a line that you'd see for the scrubbing as well. If you think about the fact that around World War II, 60% of the houses actually had an electric washing machine. So many people would have just been discarding theirs, and that's why I can find a piece like this, and sometimes I find some really large pieces as well. Because if you think about a town, if everybody's throwing away their washboards around the same like 10-year frame, and there's no garbage pickup, that means that there's going to be thousands of them that are discarded into the ocean or into landfill. Where I live out here, everything was thrown into the nearest body of water or just out the back door of where your kitchen was. Marble! Marble, everybody! Well, it's another marble. Well, it's about 70% of a marble. Okay, everyone, take a look. It's definitely a lot different than the fragment of the one that I found earlier. And I guess I should mention, because this is now the third marble that I found in this video, marbles were commonly introduced into the ocean by storm sewers. They were also introduced sometimes by slingshot ammunition. You know, it is nice to romanticize that children were playing with marbles on beaches many generations ago, and they lost them here. But the truth is that over the years, I've talked to enough people that were on these beaches back in the 1940s, the 1950s, even some that were here a little bit earlier, and they told me that these marbles were commonly used as slingshot ammunition, and on top of that, I have observed that marbles made their way onto the beaches and into the ocean through storm sewers that emptied out into the sea right behind me over here. So now if one kid dumps his collection, that introduces a couple of hundred marbles. Now if one kid a year was to dump their marbles into a storm sewer, into a toilet, or even dispense them all as slingshot ammunition, this would introduce hundreds and hundreds of marbles into an environment. And as you may or may not know, marbles were pretty cheap back in the day. I think you could get a bag of marbles for like 5 cents or 10 cents. Oh, this one right over here too. Nice little piece of clear. This one here is going to become an earring. Okay, everyone, so this is just hilarious. So take a look at what I just found over here. Now you can see that it has a little mesh wire inside of it, and I'm not sure if they still use this nowadays, but I remember when I was in my teens, in my early kind of childhood, my mom always used to take me to bingo with her. She'd let me hold the steering wheel when I was driving home in the car, and they had these magic wands, and what they did was they had these little magnetic wands, if you will. The magic wands were magnetic, and they would pick up all of these little chips when the card was done. Nowadays, I think they have the dabbers with the ink on it, and then you just kind of switch it over, or who knows, maybe it's actually done all electronically. This is just a pretty neat find, everybody, to find a bingo chip, and it's here on the beach as well. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to take it home because it is rubbish. Guys, I just found something really, really cool here, everybody. Take a look at this piece of glass. I don't know if you can tell, but it is shaped just like a diamond. So I had to turn the camera around. I want to give everybody a better idea of what this beautiful piece over here looks like. Like I said, it is absolutely shaped like a diamond, and in the past I have actually found little pieces of glass beads that would have absolutely been in rings that children would have bought at the candy store, but they were a lot smaller than this one over here. And it is a little bit too bright for me to hypothesize that this is a piece of crystal, because usually lead crystal, which contains anywhere from 2 to 24% lead, is a lot darker than this over here. It almost looks like it's a UFO now that I'm holding it right over here. You can see it almost looks like it's a little flying saucer. If there were flying saucers, I guess this is what I hypothesized they would look like from all the alien movies that Hollywood has shown us over time. This is a really, really neat find, and it really just goes to show that not everything that I find that's remarkable is going to be a beautiful color, or it's going to be a marble as well. And so I was just talking about that, and I look down and I can see a big piece of blue, and the tide just pushed it up. I have to make sure that I'm not in the way of the waves, everybody. So it really wasn't the biggest piece of blue, but I found 2 of them and a piece of amber brown as well. And now that I'm looking, I think I just found the smallest blue in the world. It's right here on my fingertip. Take a look at this, everyone. I just found a tiny little piece of red sea glass right over here. These are so easy to spot when the sun is shining nice and bright. Now take a look at this, everybody, over here. It's really, really dirty, but it is a piece of blue melt glass. Now I know that we use tin oxide to make regular melt glass, so I'm gonna actually hypothesize that all they did was they put a little bit of cobalt blue, cobalt oxide, inside of the batch of the glass to obtain this color over here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to clean this piece up, but it is worth sharing because I definitely don't come across blue melt glass as frequently as I do regular melt glass or jadeite. And it is something that you might encounter out your way. And now take a look at this piece right over here, everybody. At first I thought it was plastic, and now that I'm looking at it, I believe that this is actually a piece of custard glass. You know, sometimes custard glass was called ivory glass. I know it was pretty popular in the late 1800s into early 1900s as well. And I also know that custard glass contains a percentage of uranium oxide or uranium dioxide in it, which means that a piece like this should fluoresce underneath the spectrum of a black light. So what we're gonna do when we get home is we're gonna take this piece, we're gonna put it under a black light, and we're gonna find out if this actually is a genuine piece of custard glass. And now take a look, everybody. The waves are coming in, but it's another tiny little speck of red right over here. This one is no much larger than the last one that I found. The tide is really pushing in, everybody, and it's always a good time to check where it's cycling because sometimes something beautiful can wash up, like that purple piece that we found. Luckily for me, I did it again. I just found a beautiful green marble and it had just kicked up. You know, if you think about it, it's nice and round, so as the waves are cycling all the rocks, which are kind of flat, it's easier for something like this to surface. I'm so glad that I just looked. It's absolutely beautiful. It's so much larger than that orange one that I found, and it's so much nicer than those fragments as well. Take a look, everyone. The little orange crush marble is an absolute peewee compared to this one that I just recovered right over here. It is amazing how you can find 2 marbles that are such different sizes on the same beach, only a few feet apart, but that's really how it goes. You never know what the ocean is going to show us. Okay, everyone, take a look at this. I'm at the bottle site, and we can see that there's a whole bunch of mud, a little bit of erosion that has taken place since the last time we were here. I totally planned on bringing some tools to excavate the side over here and look for bottles, but I was so excited when I left the house this morning that I forgot to pack them. What I do have is I have a few beach rocks from the ocean, so I'm going to try and do some digging with this, but I'm actually going to have to stabilize the tablet because now that I'm looking at it right over here, it really looks like it's on unstable ground. It's actually sitting on a little piece of earth right over here inside of the erosion spot. So let's see what we can do here, everyone. Here we got like a piece of an old flower pot right over here. It's a little ceramic flower pot. The dust and debris is everywhere. It's a very windy day, everybody. It's very, very windy. There's so many pieces of broken bottles here. Piece of a plate. Wentworth, China, made in Japan. T-point, it says. Look at this over here. It's like a rail spike. This thing is old and caked on. Okay everyone, so I've just learned very quickly that these rocks are not good tools for excavating the soil over here. I'm still going to do my best, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a scratch on the surface. You can see the plastic over here too, so it's like people were littering here during the age of plastic as well. And that's an unfortunate thing about living out here. It is old world living, but a lot of people were taught generationally to continuously use water, oceans, lakes, and rivers for disposal of rubbish. They're just taught that the water takes care of it. There's actually a funny Canadian show called Trailer Park Boys, and the most ignorant character, Ricky, he's hanging out with his daughter, and he throws the empty bag of chips in the water, and he says, oh, the water takes care of it, nature takes care of it. And then his daughter's actually educating him on the fact that the water doesn't take care of it, that you really can't pollute it. And it really is unfortunate that those values are really held out here by far too many people. And I would imagine that it's not only just here, but it's other places around the world. Truth really doesn't become knowledge until we accept it as a fact. So until everybody accepts the fact that every little piece of garbage makes a difference, we're still going to have litter and pollution all over the world, which is unfortunate, but there are people like me and others out there that are making serious efforts to clean things up. Although when you come to a place like this, it's extremely undaunting of a task. Right here we can see there's a piece of cobalt blue, and then we can see another bottle. This over here is the unmistakable markings from a poison bottle, because you can see it's got that ribbed embossing on it right over here. There's like an old shoe sticking out, like a big piece of leather, probably from a coal miner. It's just insane. Looking right over here, you kind of get a microcosm of all the different types of glass that we can recover. Look at this beautiful lip right over here. It is early century, but it's probably from that bottle that was broken last time. And then take a look over here, we have the manganese glass. So this actually, the color purple enhances with exposure to the UV light because we used manganese oxide as a decoloring agent until about 1913. So this piece right over here is well over 100 years old. It's just too bad it's broken. Oh my gosh, and then look right over here. There is so much erosion that has taken place. I am not sure actually, now that I look at it, if this is actually erosion, if this is from an animal. Did somebody do this right over here? It almost looks like there's boot marks over here. So if you're watching my video right now and you are the person that was digging here, I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear if you found anything unique. Okay everyone, here we are. We're back at home, and I wanted to show everybody exactly how small these tiny little pieces of sea glass are, and I also wanted to show you how many I picked. Take a look at these tinies right over here, everybody. I do count almost everything in my life. It's just part of who I am. But over here, what I did was I took all of the tinies and I broke them into lots of 100 as I was sorting them out. These are the smallest of the tinies, and you can see that almost half of them, about 50 of them, would fit on 1 Canadian dime. So now as I pan out, everybody, you can see that I have a lot more piles of tiny sea glass. I have about 2,271 little pieces of sea glass, and I'm going to turn them all into something really special. Okay everyone, here's the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to transform it into something stellar. Take a look everybody. This is what I use some of the tiniest sea glass in the world to do. You can see that I fused it all together into a beautiful little sea star, and it's sitting on a shelf. Now I'm imagining that quite a few out there are thinking the same thing. Some of you might be thinking, I can't believe you haven't shared this with us earlier. And others might be thinking, how can I buy one of these? Well, the truth is that I haven't been selling them online because it costs about the same amount of money to ship them, which is about $15, as they do for me to sell them in my store. So it's really hard for me to ask somebody to pay $15 for shipping for something that really only costs $15 to begin with. However, if you are interested in purchasing one of these right now, I'll be really happy to accommodate you, and I promise if you like these, you haven't seen the tip of the iceberg yet, because I make so many different beautiful little creatures out of my tiny little sea glass. Which brings me to the second point of how come you haven't seen any of these earlier. You know, creative expression is something that comes from personal experience, and there's a reason why you've probably never seen anything like this before, and that's because it comes from my heart and it comes from my imagination as well. Over 14 years, I've been reinventing myself as a sea glass artist, and it took many, many years for me to come up with ideas such as this, and I'm just not ready to share them with everybody else because I know how hard it is to come up with a new and exciting idea. Even though I've been making these for so long, I do know that if you were to start copying me, you would have to devote your whole life to the artwork that I do. It really is a little tough if I was to walk into a store, especially a local store or a little craft venue, and I saw somebody who was making my little creatures exactly the way that I do, because it's something that comes from my heart and my imagination and my personal trials and tribulations as a sea glass artist. Now, if there is anybody out there that is interested in supporting me and purchasing one of these little beautiful starfish, I'd be really happy to send it to you no matter where you live in the world, as long as you don't mind paying that little bit of shipping and handling, that extra $15 on top of it. So I'm going to put my email right down here below on the screen. I'm also going to put it in the listing description so you can send me an email down there, and I can even send you a few more pictures of some of the other creatures that I make. The sun has gone down and it's almost time to say goodnight, but before we do that, I wanted to share with you how beautifully this piece of custard glass is fluorescing underneath the spectrum of a UV light. You can see that the amberina glass has a little bit of a tinge to it on the surface over here, but it really doesn't glow the way that this beautiful piece of custard glass is glowing. Well, everyone, that's going to be about it for this awesome episode of Sea Glass Archaeology. We made some great discoveries along the way, and I'm so happy that I get to share another day with you. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot to me if you considered subscribing to the channel, leaving it a like, and letting me know what your favorite parts were down below. I think of every single one of you as a dear friend of mine, so when I get to read your comments and I get to reply back, it absolutely fills me with so much joy. I know a lot of you have checked it out already. Right down below in the description of all my videos, I have a little bit of a write-up, I call it the fun facts, and it explains my life and how I ended up as a professional beachcomber. So feel free to check that out as well and let me know what you think. Thanks so much again for watching, everybody. You all mean the world to me. Hopefully we're back out on the beach again real soon, and we're making some great discoveries as well. Now take a look at this, everyone. I am leaving the beach. I've got my huge sack, and I came back to check that pile that I was talking about 4 hours ago now, and look at this right over here. There's one more marble, and it was just waiting for me. This one looks like it's been beat quite a bit. You can see right over here, it's got a lot of marks on it, a lot of wear. I'm just glad that I came here. I'm not going to be able to dig through all these rocks. They're just way too big. And you can see that the tide is coming right into me. Oh, this one's going to get me right here, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm going to have to run.